Welcome to WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal, where we equip listeners with the truth. My name is George Upper, editor-in-chief of the Western Journal, and today I'll be joined by Josh Manning, Andrew J. Shasha, and special guest Arizona Senator Martha McSally. We'll talk about her race against Mark Kelly, the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett, and the big tech censorship of the New York Post's Hunter Biden story. WJ Live starts now.
And hello again from the Western Journal. I'm Josh Manning. Joining us today is Senator Martha McSally from Arizona. She's in the middle of a tight race. She's going to update us on the race, talk about the Supreme Court nomination, and a number of other things. Senator, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you.
Well, we're pleased you're here. We're 12 days out from the election. I know your schedule's packed. Can you give us an idea of what things look like on the ground from your perspective?
Well, I'm in D.C. right now. I'm not leaving until we put Amy Coney Barrett on the bench. But when I was back in Arizona, before I flew back on Air Force One with the president, we were out there tirelessly engaging with voters. This is a dead heat race. Arizona is the battleground state for the presidency and for the Senate majority. So we just, as we're engaging with voters, my opponent's hiding in a bunker, just like Joe Biden, maybe they're roommates. And they just think they can just put a bunch of money, with slick ads up on television, never talk to voters, and somehow my opponent thinks he's going to get coronated. We're not going to let that happen here in Arizona. We need to make sure that we prevail so that the Senate majority doesn't flip. That's what's going on. A vote for my opponent is a vote for Chuck Schumer to be in charge, which is a vote to enable the radical left to push their agenda on Arizonans. So we're asking people to pay attention. I'm a fighter for Arizona. Cut taxes, roll back regulations, secure the border, supporting our Second Amendment rights, sanctity of life, back in the blue, standing up to China, getting relief out the door in COVID. And my opponent, he's doing business with China. His spokesperson called police officers worthless effing pigs on Twitter, and he still works for him.
That's amazing.
We covered that.
It's unbelievable. Honestly, he's led a sophisticated organization to take away our Second Amendment rights over the last 10 years. And so this isn't about whether you like a fighter pilot or an astronaut. This race is about whether you like freedom or you want to take a path towards socialism and all the, calamity that goes with allowing the radical left to take charge. So we're standing on the wall. We've got 12 days to win. We need everybody to get on board, get out there, vote, turn your ballot in, talk to your friends and neighbors, volunteer if you can help, teammcsally.com. We got to save the country here. I'm just the vessel standing on the wall.
When it comes to people who've piloted things, I'm pretty sure I stand with people who piloted warthogs other than sat
over anything
going
else,
around in
much,
space.
Yeah.
Not to denigrate astronauts, but
No.
But the A-10's pretty amazing.
But you know what? We've even got some astronauts and now some Navy fighter pilots who are behind us. They're saying it doesn't matter like what he did. It's about the future and it's about where he stands. And that's out of step.
Well, and that's been incredibly difficult, I think, to pin him down on. You did a very good job in the debate. He finally was willing to sort of poke his head up above ground level, and you, I think, whacked him back down pretty good, like a whack-a-mole machine. And that was great to see. It's one of the frustrating things with COVID is it's given the left an excuse to not engage. They already have censorship, and now they're trying to not engage at all.
Exactly.
You mentioned the thing that I think is most well, maybe the communist thing is more glaring than the worthless effing pigs thing.
Yeah.
But my wife and I were watching TV last night, and we saw one of his ads come on, and he was talking about police officers and his family. And I thought, my gosh, the hypocrisy. He's acting like he reveres these police officers who are in his family, and he hires this guy after.
Right.
The fella called police officers worthless
Soon
effing
after.
pig. Yes, I think 1 week. I think it was a week after. Yeah. So I mean, this looks to me very much like sort of a shell game with Kelly, and we're seeing that with other leftists saying, "Oh no, we back the blue, we support the blue," but then what they do when they think people aren't looking is profoundly anti-police.
Absolutely. This movement to defund the police coming out of the left, to vilify the police. I mean, this is Mark Kelly's spokesman. He hired him a week later. He's still on his team. I mean, you're known by the company that you keep. And the fact that he even hired this person, I mean, what do you do when you hire someone? You check their social media. And so if he didn't do that, it's a separate issue. But now that he knows what he said, he's still his spokesperson. And with the radical organization that he's led over the last 10 years, he pretends he's not a Democrat, pretends he's not political, but he's one of the most sophisticated political operatives of our time. He's been flying around the country to support people like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. I mean, we got the picture of his arm around Omar. This is a deception campaign to fool people to think that he's not with them when he clearly is with them. And that's what's at stake here, should they gain power.
Yeah. Kamala Harris had said some very nice things about Mark Kelly, and I think that should tell Arizonans a lot.
Right. Well, his organization on the issue of the Second Amendment, I mean, that's been their focus, is gun control. But his organization that he leads gave California an A grade for their gun control policies and laws, and gave Arizona an F grade. Well, I mean, if he wants to go run in California, go right ahead. But we don't want to become more like California. Why are you trying to run for a state that you are giving an F because we care about the Second Amendment? So all the way around, this is a clear choice, but they're cloaking themselves as something that they're not. It's like a Trojan horse in order to gain power. And that's why we've got to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Well, Project Veritas, I'm sure you've seen the videos, came out with videos of interviews with people who were related to Kelly's campaign and related to extreme gun control groups. And they continually said, oh, yes, Mark Kelly, he's for the assault weapons ban. Yes, he is for gun control. But gosh, he can't say it right now. Now, once he gets into office, he's going to change. I promise you, he's going to change. They think they're talking to friendly people instead of Project Veritas journalists. And so when you said, I think you said a moment ago, this is sort of a deceptive campaign. There's some deception going on. Yeah, I think he's saying one thing to the people who give him money, and there has got to be an enormous amount of money coming in from out of state. And he's saying a very different thing to people here.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, at least, AOC and the squad, they tell you exactly what they're for. And they're, the new de facto leaders of the Democrat Party. It's disingenuous because he's trying to convey like he's just not even a Democrat, independent. It's just not true. So why don't you just be honest with the Arizona voters about what you are and what you're for and what you've done. And on this issue, it's very clear. I mean, $57 million he has raised from some of the most extreme people. This is in his gun control group, focused on taking away our Second Amendment rights. If you care about the Second Amendment, which I know Arizona does, I'm your Second Amendment senator. I've shot the biggest gun of anyone in Congress in the 30 millimeter on the A10.
And we are jealous.
You care about that? I'm your girl, I mean, that's the bottom line for everyone who cares about that issue, which is Republicans, independents, and Democrats. And you think about it, they want to defund the police and take away your ability to defend yourself and your family by coming after our Second Amendment rights. No way. We're not going to let that happen.
Before we shift to SCOTUS, quickly, I want to ask you one question about a point that Kelly continually makes. I thought the only thing he really hammers you on is pre-existing conditions. Now, I have always thought, I've never known an insurance program that can work without taking pre-existing conditions into account. But he's hammering you on this, and I just have the feeling that we're not getting the whole story. Can you comment on that? Because I see it in every commercial.
I will always protect pre-existing conditions. Everybody agrees, Democrats and Republicans, that will always be the law of the land that insurance companies cannot deny people with pre-existing conditions. What's going on is Obamacare has failed people. And because I meet people in Arizona every single day, I met some this week at events virtually we had, who can't afford health insurance under Obamacare. So they are taking a vote saying, hey, Obamacare is not the way to do this, but we're committed to protecting pre-existing conditions. And these are cookie cutter ads all over the country, every single Republican. It's a fear tactic. I want your listeners to know I will always protect pre-existing conditions. And I'm committed to initiatives that will bring the cost down while giving choice and transparency, more options from people with competition. what the left wants, what will happen if Mark Kelly gets elected and Chuck Schumer's in charge and it's Biden, Schumer, and Pelosi, we will go towards the full government takeover of our healthcare, which will collapse Medicare as we know it, take away 178 million Americans on the job health insurance, close rural hospitals and private practices, and raise taxes. We don't want socialized medicine. So I'm leading on these initiatives, but don't believe these lies. They're scare tactics and they're wrong.
Now, Senator, you spoke pretty substantially about the feigned moderacy of the left right now. I mean, these are folks who, whether it be the far left or these fake moderates, you're seeing, I think, nowhere better than in the confirmation proceedings for U.S. Seventh Circuit Court Justice or Judge Amy Coney Barrett. The marching orders are coming down from the top, and whether you're a Democratic moderate, a so-called moderate, or a leftist, you are falling in line with those orders. I mean, can you just speak to what you've seen on the ground on the Hill during those proceedings?
Well, I was honored to meet with Judge Amy Coney Barrett yesterday, and she is an inspiration to me. She's a rock star. She validated in person everything that she showed America in those hearings last week. And I think every school child and every adult in America should have tuned in, not to listen to how the Democrats were behaving, but to listen to her answers, her unflappable answers, and how, you know, it was just a lesson in the Constitution, a lesson in the role of a judge. But look, the Democrats are now, we're going to be here through the weekend. You know, we're starting the voting tomorrow. We have some procedural votes. They're playing games. They wouldn't even come to the hearing or to judiciary today to vote because they're just like trying to derail or throw sand in the gears. They're using it as a platform for campaigning. It really has little to do with her, but they're also setting the groundwork. This is really key. They are setting the groundwork to try and really, discredit the court so that they can pack the court should they gain power. So we need everybody listening to understand this. They're going to pack the court. They've started it in the hearings. They're doing it in their press briefings. They're like, well, this is their excuse. But they were talking about this well before Amy Coney Barrett. Sure. Don't be fooled. If they get 51 votes in the Senate and the White House, they are going to expand the Supreme Court to, who knows, 13, 15 judges, so that they can have more radical leftists on the bench ramming their agenda down our throats. So this is another consequence. They're fundamentally trying to destroy the foundations of our country, why we have to prevail in 12 days. It's not just save the Senate, save the White House, it's save the country and save the Supreme Court as well.
Mm-hmm. And something very interesting that I just heard you say was that you said that school kids across the country should, and families across the country should have looked at that, not for what the Democrats were saying about her, but to see just how fantastic Judge Barrett really is on the issues, how fantastic her judicial philosophy is. And so something that I find incredibly interesting, though, is that they really have attacked her on all fronts. Her faith has been called into question as dangerous. Her judicial philosophy is dangerous because it doesn't bring the policy grounds or the policy resolutions that the Democrats would like. And it's resulted in some pretty disgusting attacks. I mean, we've spoken on this podcast before about a particular Slate article where Amy Coney Barrett was called as cynical as President Trump, where it was said that Barrett established who she really is, a shameless, cynical careerist who believes nobody can stop her. Now, growing up with a single conservative mother, I saw the strength of conservative women and of women with those American values. And growing up, all I heard from the left was that there was this war on women being perpetrated from conservatives. Can you just speak to the way that this attack has kind of exposed the feigned feminism on the left? That it's less about being a woman and more about what you believe as a woman for them.
Exactly. Look, I saw this in my own life, just as a side note. I mean, I was this pioneering rock star woman breaking barriers, first woman to fly in combat and taking on the Pentagon for making our women wear burqas. The media loved me. They all thought, until I became a Republican candidate for Congress. And then all of a sudden they were not interested. And so you see the same thing with Judge Barrett. Like, it is actually fitting that she is going to the court and will be in the seat that used to be held by Justice Ginsburg. And I know that's going to make the left's hair go on fire, but she's a barrier breaker. She's risen to the top of her field. She's brilliant. She's well respected across the spectrum by all those who clerked with her, all her fellow professors at Notre Dame. You've got liberals writing glowing reviews of her. She's a scholar. She's a jurist. She's not an activist. She will interpret the Constitution and the law the way they were written. She's a mother of 7 with 2 adopted from Haiti and 1 special needs, and will be the first mother with school-age children on the court. They should be celebrating this. But of course, because she's got this judicial philosophy they don't agree with, and because she's a woman of faith, they're coming after her. I think America can see right through this. She is a role model for everyone, and she's going to be on the court. We're going to vote on her on Monday.
And the last question I wanted to ask you on the nominations process is just, I think some of us kind of questioned whether or not this process was fast enough. Clearly it was. The expedited process resulted in a Senate Judiciary vote today to forward that nomination to the floor. It's going to be voted on Monday. McConnell and Senate Majority Leader McConnell and Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham have done a fantastic job with this, fighting through that onslaught. I mean, how does this affect races like yours? How does it affect those tight races? Do you think that it's going to give a boost?
I think so. And look, we're not just for people to think, why aren't you voting on her tomorrow? We have a lot of procedural votes we have to do. So we're starting the process tomorrow. It'll go through the weekend with another vote on Sunday. And the Democrats are going to be continuing to do delay tactics votes. So we're all hands on deck to bat all those down and make sure that we get her across the finish line. But my opponent in our debate, I was surprised to get him to take a position on anything, but he actually said he would vote no on Amy Coney Barrett before any hearing, not meeting with her. So that just really showed his true colors, that he would be a rubber stamp for Chuck Schumer and the left, who just want to put activist judges on the bench to legislate from the bench. That's not the role of the judiciary. So this is defining. Arizonans want a yes vote on Amy Coney Barrett. I'm proud to be casting that vote. And Arizonans need to know that Mark Kelly said that he would reject this pioneering, amazing woman who's just a role model for all and will make America proud. I said to her yesterday, you are a gift to America at this moment, and you are serving out your calling. This is what you're called to do. And Mark Kelly would say no to her. And it's important for the voters who haven't put in their vote yet to make sure they understand that. This is also what's at stake here. He showed his true colors.
So another important topic the Judiciary Committee was dealing with this week, they voted to subpoena Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey over issues of big tech censorship, which is a topic that we've covered extensively on WJ Live and at the Western Journal. And of course, this has to do with the New York Post story that on Hunter Biden and his laptop and his emails and what did Joe know and when did he know it? Do you think at this point big tech has gone too far? Do you think that the Senate and the Congress will actually be taking some substantive action in this case? And what action do you think Congress should take? What do you think Congress's role is in this issue?
Well, they've absolutely gone too far. I've always been deeply concerned about big tech. I'm concerned about big government, but concerned even more about big tech. And we saw it on display with their censorship this week. They are coming before the Commerce Committee in the Senate next week, and they've been subpoenaed by the Judiciary Committee as well. People wanted to see social media as like a highway of where you could just exchange ideas and you could pass information, you could find your old high school classmates. And they had protections that were unique to that role so that they wouldn't be treated like a newspaper who could be sued. But they're clearly showing that they're putting their thumb on the scale. I mean, we've seen this and we've known this for a while, but this is a very blatant example. I mean, they don't censor any of the stories that come out about President Trump or conservatives that are often not sourced at all. They just like let them go like wildfire. So they showed that they are trying to influence this election. I think this is election interference. And they need to be held accountable. Now, the Section 230 protections that they have, I don't think they deserve them anymore. But unfortunately, I think we do need to find other venues. Hopefully there's entrepreneurs out there where people can have a platform to exchange ideas and not see this type of censorship happen. But they can't have it both ways. If it goes down that road where we take away their 230 protections, then they can put their thumb on the scale even more while people are still trying to use it as a highway of ideas. So hopefully there's some disruption there where other innovations will happen, where we can truly have a place where information can be exchanged and we don't have conservatives who continue to be censored.
So, Senator, I know we want to be respectful of your time. I know 12 days out, you've got plenty on your plate today. Can I ask you really quickly, do you think there's a role for antitrust action when it comes to Google, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera?
Yep, absolutely. There's already been one filed by the DOJ.
Right.
They've certainly been growing into these monopolies where people don't have another choice and they're just, scooping that up. So I think there's an absolute appropriate role to look at the antitrust approach as well.
Great. Senator, thank you so much for joining us today, for your time. I know it's precious right now. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for your service. We at WJ Live Western Journal very much appreciate that. We honor our veterans, and we know that you put a lot on the line for our freedoms, and we appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you. We just needed to get everybody out to vote. Again,
Right.
Please, if you turn your ballot in, we need your vote. Arizona's ground zero for my race, the Senate majority. It's for the presidency. Get your friends and neighbors, get out there. Let's make sure that we save this country.
Can't say it any better than that. Thank you so much, Senator Martha McSally, for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Take care.
So that was a great guest. Last thing we talked about was tech censorship. Great new stuff about, well, depending on your perspective, great new stuff about Hunter Biden out today.
Yeah, but Hunter Biden might disagree with that.
Yeah,
statement,
exactly.
but
It's all perspective. Yeah. But we've now got multiple ex-business partners of Hunter Biden coming out saying, oh my gosh, we've now peeked behind the curtain. We had no idea this is what we were dealing with.
Right.
This is
confirming
not...
the authenticity of at least some of the email communication.
Yeah, and at least one of them saying, look, I don't have a political axe to grind.
Right.
This is not somebody out there who's campaigning for Trump. This is somebody who's out there who I think got a wake-up call and probably thought, hey, I got an opportunity to do some business with a guy who's connected here.
Sure.
And now all of a sudden has realized, yeah, if you lie down with dogs, sometimes you get up with fleas.
I feel a little dirty.
And they're worried about it, I think. So what do you guys think? Have you seen this? What do you think?
Yeah. The other thing I saw was NPR's explanation as to why they're not covering this story.
I haven't seen it. What is it?
Yeah, they don't want to distract people with non-news.
With things that aren't real stories, not real stories.
Right.
How
And
they can confirm that, I don't know.
That Hunter was holding 10% for the big guy.
Yeah.
That's apparently not
real
that's
news.
Apparently not real news.
Yeah,
Santa Claus?
That's NPR's stance on it. I do think big tech went the wrong way here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the denial and the censorship just made this a bigger story.
They did a study yesterday. It doubled it.
Yeah,
doubled
I think
on Twitter.
I think it did had exactly the opposite of the effect that they were looking for. Even if you ascribe to them pure motives, right? Let's pretend for a minute that what they wanted was to downplay an unconfirmed, sensationalized story that included the names and email addresses and phone numbers of some people, and they didn't want to dox them. Let's pretend their motives were totally pure. Right. They completely and utterly failed at that. Completely and utterly, they, as you say, they doubled the scope, the reach of this story that they wanted to suppress for whatever, pure or impure motives. So they've completely failed. They've completely failed at what they say their mission is. Facebook continues radio silence on this. That's the one that really gets me. Twitter at least has come out and talked about it and said, hey, we tried this, we did this, here's our reasons, whatever. Facebook is just nothing. They're not saying anything, which to me is worse. At least Twitter's trying to engage with it.
Well, and since then, Facebook is now coming down on some conservative websites, trying to link them to QAnon that have never had anything to do with QAnon.
Well, they did it to us yesterday. They did it to the Western Journal for some short period of time. Eventually, that that warning went away, which never should have been there in the first place. We've never been QAnon supporters. We've mentioned it in like 12 stories out of the thousands we published. It's never been in a light like, hey, you should listen to these guys. It's always been, hey, by the way, this guy's a QAnon supporter.
Well, the media's mentioned QAnon
far more than
many
we
times
have.
in the
Far
last
more
few
than we have.
weeks. Yeah.
And Georgia, I think it's another example of what you talk about with the idea that big tech is 100% overplaying its hand here. I mean, this wasn't the WikiLeaks drop of 2016, where you find out that the DNC was conspiring against one of the primary candidates, which is really going to turn off part of the base toward your nominee. This was something that, whether we like it or not, I think would have probably at least died down some by now. But instead, we're still talking about it, and we're still looking for these sources and trying to determine the veracity of this story because they made it a big deal.
Right. And now Zuckerberg and Dorsey are headed to Congress. They already were scheduled to testify the Commerce Department next week, as Senator McSally said. Now they've been subpoenaed by the Judicial Committee as well. All I can say is we'll see what comes out of that. We've seen them testify before Congress before. We haven't seen a lot of changes. Maybe this time will be different. We'll see.
Sped up the process a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps. So we are about out of time for the day. Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to remind everybody that Western Journal will be covering election night live right here from the WJ Live studios, powered by the Western Journal. The three of us will probably have some role in that, and as well as a number of special guests. Other figures from Western Journal will be here to offer expert opinion, and that'll be starting 4:30 Arizona time, Pacific time, so 7:30 Eastern, and we look forward to having you join us here. You're going to get the straight story here, the best analysis online, the expertise of I'm not even going to say how many years, countless years of people following elections and being involved in elections, not only from here in the newsroom, but from guest commentaries as well. So we look forward to having you here 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern on Tuesday, November 3rd, election night. We'll get you the best information. It's going to be a crazy night. Should be a wild ride, but we look forward to walking through that with you that night. And we'll see you every day here at 2 p.m. Eastern, I got that backwards. I always do that. 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. When are you guys going to have to start hitting me when I do that? Because I do it wrong every time. 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal, every Tuesday and Thursday. We will see you again very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us today. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can catch each episode live on our YouTube channel. If you're joining us on YouTube, click on the subscribe button below or check out past episodes over here. And if you liked today's episode, make sure to give us a thumbs up below or leave a comment. It really helps us out. Thank you again for joining us, and we can't wait to see you again on the next episode of WJ Live.